A couple months ago, I was definitely saying like Project Hail Mary, fake contender. Nobody's going to be talking about this movie when we get to fall. And I've sort of changed my tune about it. I feel like it has hung around in people's consciousness and people's conversations in a way that makes me think that it might actually end up getting into the Best Picture nominee slot. So that's why I say I feel like we've been moving in opposite directions. I feel like earlier on, you were more on the side of it being a Best Picture nominee, and I was like, no way. And now I think that you're getting colder on it, and I'm getting hotter on it. So I'm no longer saying like this is a fake contender. Welcome to Oscars Outsider, the only podcast where two guys talk about movies. I'm Dylan. That is Craig. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited to be back.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. We've had a tiny hiatus. So we talk about the awards race and a bit of Hollywood history. Tonight, I thought that we would get a bit of a lay of the land where we are right now, kind of halfway between Oscars, kind of you could say at the end of the off season. We're going to talk about some other prediction lists out there, which movies we think are actually going to really be contenders and which we think might fall off the race. We might talk about The Invite a little bit, which has been making some noise lately. So I think we got to dig into that. Craig, we always start this off by talking about some news, things that might affect the Oscars and the awards race down the stretch. What do you got?
Yeah, so there was a few things that I saw, actually. So one of the things that is maybe not a surprise, but Austria announced that they are officially submitting Rose. That is the film that's starring Sandra Hüller for their international feature Oscar pick. No surprise here. I think this is one that is building a little bit of momentum here. I think that there's a lot of buzz about Sandra Hüller's performance here. And when we were making our actress picks, this is the one that I saw her getting in for. So be interested to see how this ends up playing. I think Mubi holds the North American rights, but this is one I'm excited for.
Yeah, me too. Definitely early word around the film sounds like super enthusiastic. So I'm really excited to see it. When we did do way too early predictions for Best Actress, we each picked Sandra Hüller, but for different movies. I picked her for Fatherland and you picked her for Rose. Your pick might end up being the stronger one, though I still think Fatherland has serious Oscars potential, as I've been saying for a long time now. But yeah, buzz around Rose sounds like super hot right now. So I'm really stoked to finally be able to see it someday.
The other thing that I saw in terms of submissions was Bola Negra has said that they are submitting La Nieve as their best original song. So this it's not surprising that there's a song coming from here. I think what was interesting is that the song is written by Guitarrica de la Fuente, and they could make history by being, I think it's only the fifth person to receive like an acting nomination and a Best Original Song credit, which was surprising to me. I would have expected there to be a lot more people that have, got noms in both categories.
That does seem like a surprising stat. Yeah. Especially like with all the musicals out there. But I guess they have to be the person who wrote the song. So that's obviously a much rarer thing. That's interesting. Apparently that person's like kind of a star in Spain, but would be interesting to see if this could be a platform for them to break through in America.
There was also a list that came out on Variety where they were talking about a bunch of the films that are potentially going to be missing the awards window or getting pushed out to next year. And some of those are things that we already knew, like the entertainment system is going to be going into next year's con. So there wasn't a whole lot of surprises there. There was a note about Variety, or from the Variety article, that said that A24 is also adding another film to its 2026 roster. I don't think it specified which one it was. The speculation was that it was going to be Jody Hill's Famous or Henry Dunham's Enemies. So we'll see what happens there. But I feel like A24 has a pretty strong for your considerations roster right now, at least with the debut and the invite, which we're going to talk about later. So yeah, I'm wondering what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know anything about either of those movies you just named, but it would be definitely fun to have like a surprise late in the race entrant.
And the other stuff that I saw was there's a lot of discourse about Barbie 2 being in crisis. Did you see any of this?
In passing, yeah.
So
apparently, Gerwig and Bombeck have Warner Brothers over a barrel and asking for a lot of money, as they should.
Yeah, totally, they should. I'm surprised that they're not getting a blank check on this one, to be honest. But yeah, Gosling was reportedly asking like $20 million to return as Ken as well. So it's I don't think that this is something that is really needed, but I would be shocked if we don't get a Barbie.
Yeah. I mean, I hope everybody involved gets paid. I hope that that Bombeck gets enough money that he can self-finance a whole J. Kelly cinematic universe.
JKCU.
Yeah, but in terms of Gosling, like as I've said before, I've really been disappointed in his post-Ken career arc, where he just seems to be cashing easy checks. But if you're going to do that, might as well make those checks as big as possible. Like if you're going to be a sellout, sell for a high price.
Yeah.
You know, I hope you're getting paid a ton of money to do Ghost Rider with Sean Levy, buddy. Like, because otherwise it's just depressing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's interesting that you brought up Ghost Rider, because that was one of the announcements over the past, I don't know when that was announced, but like a couple weeks ago. And my reaction to it is way different than the announcement of Indy Neverett joining the Marvel universe as like Rogue or something like that. Just because like she's on the rise, and obviously Ryan Gosling is like one of the A-list stars, and it's disappointing to see Gosling go into a cape slop movie, whereas with Indy I'm like, oh yeah, like, get the bag, girl.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with her, it's like you do kind of have to strike when the iron is hot. Like, while your stock is this high, you might as well grab a role that you can probably pay for a very solid payday multiple times, because that's probably going to be a character that's going to come up in multiple movies. And I think that's one of the reasons why all these actors do take those Marvel contracts. Yes, they do limit your careers in a lot of ways, because you have to keep freeing your schedule to do the next movie. But it's like it's job security. It is job security. That's the thing Bruce Willis used to always say, like about like playing John McClane. He's like, you got to have one role that you can keep going back to, because you never know when your career is going to take a downturn, and then you can just like hit that button and go back to that role. So for somebody who's got a lot of buzz now, but who knows how it's going to last, it makes sense to be like, I'm going to grab a role where I can get a good payday multiple times, probably over the years, even if other things don't end up going my way. With Gosling, though, I do think it's just kind of depressing. I remember back when he was doing press for Drive, and he was saying things like, "Oh, this is the closest I'm going to do to a superhero movie," because they keep calling me about superhero movies, but I'm not interested. And that, plus also Adam Driver finally agreeing to join Marvel to play Mr. Sinister, which was also announced this week, I believe, who is also a guy who apparently Marvel's been like calling him for years, trying to get him to do a role. There's something very, very sad about these people who allegedly have been turning down superhero roles all over the years, finally just being like, yeah, sure, I'll do this random C-list character. Like, okay.
Yeah. I also don't get like Adam Driver positioning himself as above doing cape slop when he's been in Star Wars. Like I do not see much of a difference between those two like worlds.
But I mean, in Star Wars, he was like a huge central character. He wasn't Mr. Sinister. Anyways, enough Marvel stuff, enough Disney stuff. Anything else that you noticed for the past couple of weeks?
No, that's kind of it.
It has been pretty slow.
Yeah, that's really about it.
Yeah, we are in a bit of a lull. I will say that the Locarno Film Festival in Switzerland just wrapped up a couple days ago. That's not a big film festival. It's not really as important to the awards race as things like Berlin, Cannes, Venice are.
I was going to say, like, what is this? Gimli Film Festival just wrapped too.
Okay, but I think Locarno is becoming more important, at least as like an industry gathering thing. So like the winners aren't necessarily going to affect the race. It was You Don't Belong Here, which is a Romanian film, which won the Golden Leopard, and Hong Sang-soo won Best Director, which I'm happy about because I'm a big Hong boy. But it is an interesting venue because it's a lot of industry people show up. So it did host the European premiere of The Invite, which we'll be transitioning into in a second. And so Olivia Wilde got a lot of press in Europe for that. It also had a screening for Paper Tiger, which got a lot of press for James Gray. It was the reason why he had a new interview in Variety, where he trashed AI, and that got some attention. Kind of just a reliable way to get attention when you're a filmmaker. Just say the words AI in any context, and you'll get a headline in Variety. But it provided a showcase for those two filmmakers that I think could help their continuing building of momentum heading into fall. Otherwise, it's been pretty sleepy. We know mostly what movies are going to be playing at the fall festivals, and we're waiting for those to start. We'll maybe do previews of them coming up just before they start. Anything else on the news front before we move on?
No, nothing on the news front.
Yeah. All right. So I mentioned that there was just the European premiere of The Invite, which I think continues to build momentum. I just watched it last night. I think you just watched it recently as well, Craig.
Yeah, I also just watched.
Oh, awesome! We're watching
fresh
it at the same time. Yeah. That's so cute. Thoughts?
I loved it actually. So yeah,
it's a good movie.
I thought it was great. If you're a longtime listener to Dylan and I, like even back when we were talking about Real Housewives and not the Oscars, you will know that I love when space is used like really interestingly, and I thought that this does such a fantastic job of doing it. It gave me some Sidney Lumet vibes in terms of like the composition and the use of space, and I thought it was great.
Oh, I like that you pronounced the T in Lumet. That's correct, but very few people get that. Good job.
You know what? I didn't before until we were talking about one of the Real Housewives episodes that we talked about where we were making comparisons, and I noticed that you pronounced it right, and I know that I never pronounce names correctly, so I picked it up from you.
Nice. I also really enjoyed the use of space. It is a 400 chamber piece, and I haven't seen Olivia Wilde's previous movies, Booksmart and Don't Worry, Darling. This is their third feature, so I'm getting caught up with her as a director for the first time. She's got chops. Chops. This is a well-directed movie. When we did our way too early picks for best director, I snuck Olivia Wilde into my top 5, partially just on the strength of like, there's probably going to be a woman in there and she feels best positioned to be there. I feel much better about that pick having seen the movie because I think it's super well directed, both in terms of the performances and in terms of, like you said, the use of space, the space between performers, the choice of angles, whether the camera's looking up or down at a character often influences the power dynamics between them. There is a lot of good shot choices, a lot of thought that went into the composition of the film.
Totally. Editing is fantastic in it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And all 4 performances are keyed up to a really good degree of comedy, zaniness that also nonetheless remains realistic enough to feel like relatable people that you might have met in your life. Well-made movie, just a well-made, simple kind of chamber comedy.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and the way that she's able to like build tension both like for dramatic purposes and comedic purposes is excellent. I think like it's hard to strike that balance well, and I think she nails it.
Nice. Do you feel like it's more of an Oscars contender than you thought, having actually seen the movie now?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about it getting into the Best Picture nominations?
I'll be disappointed if it doesn't. I think that it definitely deserves to be there.
Maybe my one hesitancy is I haven't seen the Spanish movie that it's based on. It's an adaptation of a movie that's called The People Upstairs from 2020, I believe, a Spanish film, and so it's hard for me to judge how much of what I like about the movie is original to it and how much has been taken from the original material. I should watch the original at some point because it seems to have taken off in a way. This is like the 5th or 6th remake already of The People Upstairs. There is there's a French version, there's a South Korean version. There are like multiple versions of this movie already, even though it only came out like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I knew it was an adaptation. I didn't realize it had been adapted that many times. Is there any sort of like precedence for films that have been like adapted this many times that you know of and that have like made big Oscar campaigns for one of the adaptations?
I don't know. I mean, there are definitely movies that have like multiple versions where you can think of like one version breaking through at the Oscars, not necessarily winning Best Picture. I'm thinking of Wuthering Heights, for example. The William Wyler version had a lot of Oscar nominations, despite being very far from the first version of that novel. But I think that's maybe a different thing than what you're talking about, an adaptation of a book compared to just a remake of a movie. That's it is somewhat rare to see straight remakes getting into the Oscars conversation, I think, to such a big degree. I'm kind of racking my memory. I did use this as a trivia question a while ago, but there are 2 movies that have won Best Picture in the 21st century that were kind of remakes that a lot of people I think didn't realize were remakes because they were not of American movies, and that's The Departed and also Coda. The Invite seems to kind of fit that pattern more, in the sense of being like a remake of a movie that was popular in another country, but a lot of people seeing it in America probably aren't even aware of the fact that it's a remake. But in terms of a movie that's been like remade a whole bunch of times, I'm not thinking of one off the top of my head. Maybe later I'll kick myself for not thinking of it.
So you also mentioned this is like a great like four-handed performance. Like all of these actors and actresses are fantastic in this. Where do you see them potentially slotting in terms of nominations? Do you think all or none or some?
That is an interesting question because all 4 performances are definitely strong. My personal favorite is Edward Norton. I think he is hilarious. And I love Norton in these kind of, he has kind of fallen into a groove of like just really nailing these comedy performances where he plays smug guys, in movies like Birdman and Glass Onion. And he's really, really good at it. I would love to see him in that conversation. I kind of have a hard time picturing him slipping in, though. I wonder if Olivia Wilde actually has the best chance to get an acting nomination. She is really good at the movie, too.
Yeah, she is.
Seth Rogen definitely has a lot of goodwill right now. He just like won several Emmys for the studio, and I think he's like he's at kind of a high point of being well liked in Hollywood, at least by a certain segment of like more liberal Hollywood, I guess, and for speaking his mind in a way that a lot of people appreciate. But I almost want to say Penelope Cruz for supporting has like the clearest path. Though at the same time, Penelope Cruz is doing a lot of movies this year, and she might be providing competition to herself. Though, of course, rule changes mean that she could get multiple nominations, even in the same category. That is now a possible thing. But you would think that she and the people around her would support on would concentrate on one film, on one performance. And would that performance be The Invite? I'm not sure, but I still feel like that's the one that makes the most sense. It feels like the most like clear path to getting supporting because otherwise you're gunning for lead. If like for Olivia Wilde, she would probably be going for lead, and that feels like a very crowded field that might be difficult to break into. If I had to pick one that I think gets a nomination, I think I would go with Cruz. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think Olivia Wilde makes the most sense here. Like this is her movie. Like she directed it, and it feels very like her fingerprints are all over it. So I could see there being the most momentum around any person associated with this film is obviously going to be her. And I could see that carrying into the actress field. I think.
But could that work against her too? Because people are like, oh, we really wanted to get her a best director nomination, and the momentum to get her best director like kind of takes attention away from the performance, and people don't want to push that as much.
That's possible, but this is a fantastic performance. I think you can't watch this movie and not appreciate her performance. It is so layered, and it's great. I think that it's more likely, in my opinion, that there's synergy around this as opposed to it, taking away. I think that Penelope Cruz, I feel like her clearest path is via La Bola Negra. And so I see that being more of a juggernaut within the award season than The Invite. I still feel like The Invite is going to have a smaller of a footprint at the Oscars than La Bola Negra. I think La Bola Negra is going to have all of Netflix weight behind that, and I can see it potentially having a surprising amount of nominations compared to what we thought, coming out of Cannes. I think that her path is going to be via La Bola Negra. Maybe Bunker, if that is something that is coming out this year. But I still see Cruz as being associated with La Bola Negra, and that being a way bigger Oscars player than The Invite. I see The Invite definitely being present, but I feel like it's going to have more of a footprint similar to A Real Pain. I see it being in the acting categories or in the supporting categories. A player, I think maybe a lead actor for Olivia, and I think that it's going to probably be in the adapted screenplay and best. I think it does hit Best Picture, unlike A Real Pain, but I do think that overall it's going to have a smaller amount of nominations.
Just to be clear, you have reversed that position from when I first brought up A Real Pain and The Invite. I asked which one I thought would have a better shot at Best Picture, and you'd picked A Real Pain at that. Or sorry, I'm getting confused. I was talking about the debut, the other Eisenberg movie. But that does actually lead me to what I was going to ask, which is, do you think there are maybe just too many comedies that some of these are just not going to make it? Like between Digger and maybe Project Hail Mary and Wild Horse 9 and possibly the debut and The Invite. Surely there's not going to be half of the nominations are just going to be comedies. Which some of these are going to have to crowd the other ones out, right? Do you think The Invite could be a victim of too many other comedies in contention?
I think that if it was like straight comedy, then maybe, but this is definitely like dramedy. And
sure,
I feel like it's going to get a pass on that. I don't think that it's competing with Digger. I don't think. Do you?
Kind of, yeah. Especially if Wild Horse 9 is in there too. There might be just some people just might be like, oh man, there's too much goofy stuff here. This is why I was saying 2 weeks ago that I could really see Behemoth becoming a contender, because at the time I said people are going to say there's too many sci-fi fantasy epic movies here. I could see them also saying, oh, there's too many comedies. There are a lot of people who, I'm in that category too, are going to be like, where's the goddamn adult dramas? Give me a serious adult drama. Which movies are going to fill those slots? And that's why I'm starting to feel really high on Behemoth. Because I think there's got to be an American movie, like a Hollywood movie. Yes, there will be a couple foreign movies that could fill that slot, but people are going to want there to be a Hollywood movie that is a contemporary adult drama, a straight drama, no weird costumes, no goofy jokes. And And I see that being Behemoth, and I think there might be a bit of a fatigue around the comedies as well as there might be a bit of a fatigue around the spectacle movies once we start getting down the stretch, and all the people who are like, damn, I just want a really good drama are looking for their champion.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible. I could see The Invite and Debut competing more than I could see The Invite and Digger, but I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm interested in whether or not Behemoth fills that slot. I think you're right that we're still waiting to kind of identify what that movie is going to be. I think it's possible it's Behemoth. There's an outside shot that it's Paper Tiger still if the New York Film Fest relaunch is good, but I'll be interested to see.
It's definitely going to be a big storyline for me to watch in terms of the New York Film Festival, precisely which movie comes out as the darling when that festival's wrapped. And because I feel like you said, Behemoth and Paper Tiger might be in direct competition for that slot of like which one of these American dramas from a really good American filmmaker who maybe hasn't gotten enough credit, enough opportunity as a lot of people would have liked to have seen them get. Which one of those comes out of the festival as like the one everybody's carrying on their shoulders and tossing laurels at? Because one of them is going to have a much better reception than the other. New York Film Festival can be a little rough. It can be harsh towards some films. It's not always a very friendly venue. And I'm really going to be interested to see which movie comes out looking a little more glazed when that festival's wrapped up.
Yeah, for sure.
So, moving on, we are kind of in the doldrums. Like I mentioned, we don't have a ton of news right now because that's normal. That's where we are at the calendar. We're getting close to kind of the halfway mark between last year's Oscars and next Oscars. Since the fall festival season is starting in just a couple of weeks, we're getting to the point where you can kind of start talking about award season for real, where a lot of the movies that are going to end up in the conversation are finally going to see the light of the day. The off season is coming to an end, this period where we can just kind of sort of speculate about a lot of movies that we haven't even seen yet, and maybe hype up some movies that aren't actually going to be contenders going down the line. That this sort of dead zone is coming to an end. I feel like this is a good moment to just kind of take stock of where we are at the race as we get to the end of it's way too early to know anything and start getting into we start to know some stuff. So let's maybe take a look at what some of the people are saying, like what some people other than us think are the contenders at this point, where we are all still pretty in the dark when it comes to all this stuff. So we thought we might look at some lists that other reliable sources have collated about who they expect to be the Oscar nominees and react to them and let you know what we think about them. Probably we're all wrong at this point, but it's very fun to try and guess. I haven't really looked at anything yet in terms of other people's predictions. I've mostly been avoiding that up till now. How about you, Craig?
Yeah, so I've taken a look at a few. So one of the first ones one of the more recent ones that I've seen was Clayton Davis with Variety. Variety released a list, and I think this was released as of August 1st.
Okay, a couple weeks ago.
In alphabetical order, I will give you the picks. So right. What they've got first is Being Human, which is the Apple original film from Sandra Hüller. Then we've got
is opening Toronto, I believe.
Yeah. Then they've got The Debut.
Okay.
They've got Dune Part 3, Fjord, La Bola Negra, The Odyssey, Project Hail Mary, Tender Loving Care, Wild Horse 9, and Wildwood. So
there are two that I don't even know what the hell they are. What are Tender Loving Care and Wildwood? What are those?
So Georgina Lowe is behind Tender Loving Care, which I know nothing about. And then Wildwood is Travis Knight and Sam Wilson. That's all that I've got there. So yeah, those are surprises to me as well.
Okay. Other than that, I'm not that surprised by anything. Being human, maybe a little bit, but I can see it. I assume it's going to be a biopic, a little bit on the sappy side of things, from the director of Coda, like you said, that an Apple movie. Apple's been surprisingly successful in the past. They got Coda Best Picture. They got F1 into the nominations for Best Picture last year. So that one stands out a bit, but I can see it. Like, we haven't really talked about that as a contender, but it also does have a pretty good slot. The opening slot at the Toronto Film Festival is a place where it will garner some attention from industry types for sure. So depending how that premiere goes, yeah, I could definitely see that in there. But yeah, otherwise, Tender Loving Care, Wildwood, those are wild cards to me. I do not know what those are, so that's interesting. Otherwise, this is mostly. So hold on, you did not have the invite on that list, did you? Right?
The invite is not on that list. The invite is
not on that list. Okay.
So
Clayton
another
Davis
interesting omission is another interesting omission is the Odyssey. Or sorry, not the Odyssey. Oh my God, that would be Obsession is not on that. Which, like, I think you've got that tracking to miss, but it's on a lot of lists that I've seen.
Yeah, I would be completely shocked if, as I've said before, if Obsession is a Best Picture nominee. But yeah, otherwise it's a lot of the movies that we have been talking about. In terms of like the non-American movies, I guess the two that Clayton Davis is going with are Fjord and La Bola Negra. Those two Cannes titles, one of which won Palme d'Or and the other of which had the best reception of the festival. Those are the two that he's including. That definitely makes sense. That makes sense to me too. So I'm not too surprised about that. I still, as I've already said, feel strongly about Fatherland. So I could put Fatherland in for either one or the other myself, which is another Cannes movie. Might be off about that. I still imagine that it's going to have a big reception. Speaking of those Cannes movies, I guess he's also not including the Ryusuke Hamaguchi movie All of a Sudden in there either, which is kind of tracks with what we've been saying too, right? We've been talking about that as kind of an outside shot, but not necessarily something that we expect to see get Best Picture. Anything surprising about that to you?
I don't think, well, I was a little surprised that we've got both Project Hail Mary and Dune Part 3 on here. I feel like it's more likely that we've got just Dune Part 3 on this list. I personally have been feeling like Project Hail Mary is going to miss, but I think you said that you thought that it was gonna get it.
Yeah, so I think we've moved in opposite directions on this, and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. Is that like which movies that people have been talking about as contenders are going to fall off the map by the time we really get into the thick of things in October, November, December, because there are going to be some of these movies that are just going to disappear. And that's how it goes. A couple months ago, I was definitely saying like Project Hail Mary, fake contender. Nobody's going to be talking about this movie when we get to fall. And I've sort of changed my tune about it. I feel like it has hung around in people's consciousness and people's conversations in a way that makes me think that it might actually end up getting into the Best Picture nominee slot. So that's why I say I feel like we've been moving in opposite directions. I feel like earlier on you were more on the side of it being a Best Picture nominee, and I was like, no way. And now I think that you're getting colder on it and I'm getting hotter on it. So I'm no longer saying like this is a fake contender. I feel like it could, I don't think it's going to challenge to win Best Picture, but I'm starting to see it as a movie that actually will in fact get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, that could be. I just feel like there's going to be only one space sci-fi movie, and I feel like it's going to go to Dune Part 3 as opposed to Project Hail Mary. I just feel like there are maybe more people in the Academy who are going to feel like Dune is of a higher like echelon of film than Project Hail Mary, which feels more of a just kind of, I don't know, a bit goofier.
For sure. It's definitely much goofier, but I think that works in its favor. I mean, in the 10 nominee era, it's not necessarily one or the other. You can have two sci-fi movies. We've seen that. We've seen that in other years as well. The very first 10 picture year, we had two sci-fi movies in Avatar and District 9. I think that we have to get used to there often being one kind of Marvel-y sort of jokey sci-fi movie that millennials really like. I think that's kind of just they're not always going to be a Best Picture winner the way Everything Everywhere All at Once was, but something like I would say that Sinners last year was the kind of Marvel-y sort of millennial movie that not everybody will like that I say that, but I think that's the one that kind of got it into that slot. And I think that's the position that Project Hail Mary doesn't have direct competition for. Not necessarily the sci-fi slot or the comedy slot, though it's both a comedy and a sci-fi, but kind of the like Reddit core millennial vibes slot. That's the one that it just hits that note that there's going to be so many people who are like some of these somewhat younger voters, somewhat younger. I mean, people who are like 40 years old or whatever, like our age, who are Academy voters who are going to be like, oh, I want to hit that button.
I could see what you're saying there. I do feel like maybe there's enough of that kind of millennial energy around something like The Invite. I feel like it doesn't have that same like Marvel-y tone or that like that jokiness, but I feel like it might resonate more with millennials who are kind of at this stage of life where they are potentially grappling issues within their marriages and stuff like that. I could see that.
Yeah, but then there's a big contingent of millennials who aren't interested in grappling with issues with their marriage and are still interested in like Big Chungus.
That's true.
And those are the people who are voting for Project Hail Mary.
Okay, so the next list that I had was it's a combined list from the team at Next Best Picture, and so I guess the way that they did this was there's 17 people on their team, and they all made their list of who they thought was going to be nominated and who they thought was going to win, and then pick their 10. So in the 10th spot, they had The Invite, and 8 out of 17 of their team members thought that it was going to get a nomination. Number 9, they had The Debut, and that was 13 of their 17. Number 8, they had Behemoth.
Okay, Behemoth rears its head.
Yeah, and that was also 13 out of 17. And Digger as well was 13 out of 17 at number 7. Number 6 was Fjord, so 15 out of 17. Number 5 was Dune. Number 4 was... Oh, and the top 4 all had 17 out of 17 people thinking that it was going to get a nom. So 4, 3, 2, and 1 were Project Hail Mary, Wild Horse 9, La Bola Negra, and The Odyssey. Anything surprising there?
I mean, yeah. So this is kind of trying... It feels like it's triangulating a clear top 4 here, which all these 17 writers agree on, which includes Project Hail Mary, Wild Horse 9, The Bola Negra, and The Odyssey. That's pretty interesting to me. This also does kind of show something that I've argued for since we saw the trailer, which is that the Digger is not being positioned as much as a heavyweight as it seemed like it would be when it was kind of just pure hype before we'd seen any footage a couple months ago. And I agree with that. I think that this is a movie that stock has been falling since we've actually seen footage. I don't think it's just us. Yes, I know a lot of people got mad at us when we said that the Digger trailer sucked, but I don't think it's just us. I think there's other people who are like, oh, you know what? Maybe we got over our skis talking about this movie as a Best Picture contender just because it felt like it was Tom Cruise's time to get an Oscar. So it's interesting that that's kind of being shut out of kind of the, it's still in the nominations, like it's still in their top 10 list. So yeah, they're definitely not discounting it by any means, but they haven't really collated around it, these writers, as the consensus picks. Whereas Project Hail Mary is a consensus pick, to just kind of continue that thread. So, that seems to be one that again isn't really going away. And once again, like with the Clayton Davis list, the two foreign movies that are being picked as the serious contenders are Fjord and La Bola Negra. Otherwise, this is a lot of the movies we've been talking about. Behemoth is a big difference from the Clayton Davis list, so that once again makes me feel even more confident in my growing belief that Behemoth is more of a contender than I kind of, I guess, expected it to be a couple of months ago. I don't know. What's surprising to you about this?
Yeah, this one, I mean, it seems a lot more like what I would expect to be on this list. This one is not very surprising. I think, just to get back on what you were saying about Digger, though, I don't think that all the talk about it being contender was solely based on the fact that it was coming in with a Tom Cruise, it's his time narrative, which I think is still a very strong, like that feels like the strongest part of Digger still. But the way they kind of trickled information about this out in this kind of mysterious way, and we were just seeing a few like stills from the film, and it really I think it really didn't kind of show what the tone of the film was going to be, and the trailer was at least a surprise to a lot of people, including myself. So I think that kind of like that pivot, that hard turn, was what has really made it fall, in my opinion.
All right. Do you have any others that you've been looking at?
So those are the two big lists that I was looking at, but they do have other like above the line categories.
Let's save that for another one.
All right.
But okay, so I'm going to just reiterate the question that I floated earlier. Which movie do you think that has been positioned as a potential contender is going to disappear from the conversation once we get really into the thick of it in a couple months here?
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to feel like it's Obsession. And that is one that I know you have not been.
I've never taken that seriously as an Oscars movie.
I think a lot of people are, and I feel like that is going to fall.
I feel like the only shot it might have is Indy Navarrete for Best Actress. I think that campaign is not necessarily going away. I still don't see her making it in, but I think that she sticks around the conversation. Definitely, like you mentioned, the X-Men casting is the kind of thing that's going to keep her name in the zeitgeist. People are still going to keep talking about this performer. And as she continues to try to kind of cash in on this unexpected success, we're probably going to hear more, casting news and stuff that'll keep her name kind of in trade headlines and stuff. So I could see that idea that she should be a Best Actress nominee continuing to be in the conversation all the way into awards season. I don't necessarily think that she gets the actual nomination, but I think that she remains in the discussion. In terms of the movie in general, I don't think it's a serious thing.
Yeah, I'm beginning to believe you're right.
I will say, and I think this take is already cold by this point, but I think the train has left the station for Michael, which was one of those movies I think that felt like it was in the conversation a while ago just because we didn't have a lot of movies to talk about. And now that we're going to start having more and more serious contenders in conversation, it's not in either of the lists that you just gave us. I think that's a clear sign that that's not happening as much as it is a very popular movie that fulfills a role that is traditionally an Oscar-ish role, the musical biopic. I think that the bad reviews and the fact that the cultural conversation has moved on from musical biopics and has kind of pushed it into irrelevancy. So I would say that that's one that's going to fall off the charts. But again, that take might already be cold because look at these lists. Maybe it already has fallen off the charts even before we get into the season proper.
I mean, it is interesting that there's not really any biopics that are showing up on these.
Being Human is a biopic, though that's like fringe.
Yeah, true. I think
But that's true.
there are some biopics that haven't been widely seen yet that we could potentially get playing here. I mean, Primetime is one that has a little bit of buzz about it.
Yeah.
And
hey, did you see the new trailer for Primetime?
I saw a trailer for it. Yeah, I thought it
cool.
looks awesome. Yeah,
looks cool. Yeah, I like the trailer. I could definitely see Robert Pattinson getting a Best Actor nomination for that. He does the voice. You know, that is one of those things where it's like, yeah, maybe biopics aren't as much of a sure thing to get Best Picture nominees anymore. That's still an easy way to get an acting nominee. Relatively easy. Okay, maybe you could dispute the usage of that word, but I could see Robert Pattinson getting a Best Actor nomination for that, even if I don't.
Yeah, let's get that Best
it.
Adapted Performance category I've been talking about.
Yeah, but I'm excited for the movie. It looks cool.
Yeah, there's also Tony, which is the Anthony Bourdain biopic with Dominic Sessa, and I Am Rocky is another one that
I Am Rocky. That's another one that's going to show up at Toronto. I can see that being in the conversation for sure. Mm-hmm. Tony, that's playing right now, I think, right? Isn't that maybe limited release?
I think it's limited release.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sick of that Matt Johnson guy. I don't care for it. All right. How about this? Is there a movie that's already been released that you think could be a riser that could enter the conversation despite not being maybe in either of those lists?
So we talked a little bit on a previous episode about this, and I'm still sticking to it. I think All of a Sudden is not out of the woods. I don't think you can count it out yet. I do see it potentially making a bit of a push for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure if we see it outside of Best International Feature and possibly the outskirts of acting, though even that I would be pretty surprised by. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm totally with you on that. I'm not sure that Paper Tiger is dead either, though. I wonder if Paper Tiger could continue to build momentum. Like I said, when James Gray opened it at Locarno, he got some press for that. They expect him to show up in a lot more interviews when he has it as the opening night film at the New York Film Festival. I think there's a lot of people who like James Gray. A lot of people definitely like his interviews. He's one of the best interviews of any filmmaker, I think, out there. He's a very, very smart, well-spoken guy. He is the kind of director, I think, who can sell a movie on his own, even if his cast isn't that willing to sell it. And it doesn't seem like they are.
Yeah.
But mind you, he hasn't been able to do it yet in terms of Oscars. None of his movies have gotten Oscars love. But it's a crime drama. Paper Tiger is a crime drama. We don't really have one of those in conversation. And you often have one of those in the Oscars nominees list. So I wonder if that could be a riser here.
Yeah. Another one that is maybe falling that hasn't been on these lists and we haven't really talked about at all today is The Social Reckoning. That feels like it could be falling, although there was just like a GQ cover article on Jeremy Strong. It's talking about his process. So that campaign is warming up, but I'm wondering whether this starts to look like it's fizzling.
I still see it as a player for screenplay, and I definitely see Mikey Madison as a player for actress. I put her on my way too early list of Best Actress nominees. Jeremy Strong, good point. People really like him. I could see him in supporting potentially, but Best Picture, no, don't see it.
Yeah, I think that about does it for the list, unless we really do want to dive into the acting.
Sure. Let's do quick. Let's do quick. Do you want to?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. So the next Best Picture for Best Actress, they've got 1 through 5 are Julianne Moore for The Debut. They have her positioned as who they think is going to win. Indy Navarrete for Obsession is at number 2. Renata Renceve is at number 3. Sandra Hüller is at number 4 for Rose, her performance in Rose. And number 5 is Olivia Wilde they've got.
Okay. So, yeah, not super surprising. That's a lot of the names we talked about when we did our Way Too Early Best Actress preview. I think I pretty much had that, except I did not have Navarrete. I had Mikey Madison. And I think that's, if I'm recalling right, I think that's otherwise maybe my list. Close to that anyways. Anything surprise you?
No, this seems like what I am expecting it to look like at this point.
Do you think I'm out on an island here thinking that Mikey Madison gets another nomination?
I kind of do, actually. I don't know. All I can go off is the trailer and just general buzz. And I feel like most of the momentum is behind Jeremy Strong on this right now. I feel like the pulse on Mikey Madison is similar to the pulse on Jeremy Allen White.
Okay. What do you have for actor here?
So for actor on the next Best Picture list at number 1, they've got John Malkovich, who
number 1.
Yeah, so they had him at number 1. They don't. So that's sorted by the amount of people they thought were going to get nominations. For the pick for winner was Tom Cruise, but 2 people had Tom Cruise missing for a nomination here, which is pretty interesting. Number 3, they've got Matt Damon. Number 4, they've got Andrew Scott for Elsinore, which is a film I don't think we've talked at all about.
No, I don't think we have.
There's murmurs about that movie. And number 5, they've got Pedro Pascal for
which interesting.
That one is pretty surprising for me. I don't see him getting in there. I see that spot probably being either Ryan Gosling for Project Hail Mary or Sebastian Stan for Fjord, or we could get like some outside pick like Patterson for Primetime would be a bit of a surprise pick for me, or John Turturro for is it The Only Living Pickpocket in New York or whatever it is? Could be a surprise.
So this one diverges a little bit more from what we had talked about earlier, though we definitely had Cruz and Damon, and talked about Malkovich too as a contender. We hadn't considered Pedro Pascal, maybe because he's a bad actor, but I do think that if Behemoth ends up being a big player, as I'm starting to think it might be, then it makes sense that he would be one of the ships raised by that tide. I could kind of see that happening now. Andrew Scott, that's something to watch. That's something to look out for. Definitely like a good performer who's well liked. Don't know much about the movie, but we'll see.
So for the supporting actress, they've got number 1 Anne Hathaway, number 2 Mariana Di Girolamo. I don't know if I got that one. Penelope Cruz for La Bola Negra, Sandra Hüller for Project Hail Mary, and Samantha Morton for The Odyssey.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't done full predicts for supporting. Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, and for supporting actor, they've got Paul Giamatti for The Debut, John Goodman for Digger, Steve Buscemi for Wild Horse 9, Sam Rockwell for Wild Horse 9, and John Leguizamo. Okay, I'm a little surprised that we've got John Leguizamo over Robert Pattinson for The Odyssey here.
I'm a little surprised that the movie that gets 2 Best Supporting Actor nominations is Wild Horse 9 and not The Odyssey.
Yeah,
in this list.
And Edward Norton misses for the invite on this list as well, which is maybe surprising as well. I didn't think Steve Buscemi would be on my list, but
Okay. Interesting.
Cool. Yeah, that I think about does it.
Yeah, I think that about does it for me too. We'll be back very soon. I'd like to get into some Oscars history stuff pretty soon, so stay tuned if you're one of the people who likes historical sidebars, because I think we could sneak in one of those before we really get into the fall festivals. The season is going to start heating up soon. Maybe a premiere or a preview of the Venice Film Festival. That might be something on the horizon. I don't know. Maybe a little look ahead at what movies are going to be opening at Venice, because because that's kind of a big moment for the race as well. So there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff on the horizon as things start to kick into a higher gear. Follow along if you want all that good stuff. My name is Dylan Ferguson. I do write about movies on Substack. I have something up there right now about Blue Heron and Backrooms that you can check out for free if that interests you. Craig Midwinter, any final words you want to leave our listeners with?
Just hit the like and subscribe. Tell your friends about this podcast. Post us wherever you are posting about awards podcasts. I don't know. But yeah, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about those lists and what surprised you about them. I'm Craig Midwinter.
Nice. Dylan Ferguson. We'll catch you next time on Oscars Outsider.